Hi, welcome to our second talk of our open day of the College of Functional Wellness and Functional Kinesiology. And I'm joined by the fabulous Zoisa Holder from For You Pilates. And we are going to have a really interesting discussion about teens, about teenage health, about hormones. And we're going to look at the experience that girls have and the experience that boys have, because I feel for teenagers in this day and age, because not only are they having to deal with things like COVID, social media, which I'm delighted I did not have in my teens, but also all of the hormone disrupting stresses that are happening in our world and in our environment and in our diets that are just making teenage life even more miserable than when I went through it. So Zoisa, do you want to introduce yourself, say a little bit about what you do, and then we can get stuck in with looking at teenagers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Laura. And yes, so my name's Zoisa and I'm For You Pilates and Wellbeing. So my job is to help people move better, feel free. And I do that through Pilates, massage. I'm also one of the current students on the functional kinesiology course, loving it. And it's just really opened up a whole depth to the practice and just helping people to understand more about if you want to get fitter or you've got that backache or something's just not quite right, then, yes, you can go to that fitness class, but actually, what is the foundation? It's the whole picture of all the other different things that happen. If there's an imbalance in any of the system, be it biochemical, emotional, electoral, structural, the B's, as Claire and Laura love to call it, then it's like that has an impact on your muscles and how everything works. So it's really an opportunity to help people know more. And I'm particularly interested in adolescents. So it's like, how can you help those? So a lot of the people that I deal with are the parents, a few every now and again kids come on board, but it's, for me, I'm like, okay, well, how can I get the information out there to help the parents of the people who I teach? They have got teenagers and they're getting older, and hey, that opens up for the few teens that I do know, so that actually they can have, as Laura was saying, that smoother transition. It's a rocky time. I remember my adolescent years. So one of the things that I'm really interested in is what are the experiences of adolescents, kind of just generally? So what are the normal changes that we would expect them to go through, and what is common? Because if it's common, doesn't mean to say that it's normal.
Yeah,
it could be that actually it's common and it looks normal, but actually there's an imbalance there, but we just kind of go with it.
I think that's a great point. Okay, well, I think one of the first things that I wanted to say is us as females are very used to talking about hormones. And when we think about hormones, we think about our monthly cycle. So our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone mix that happens so that we have our bleeds. And for teenage girls, it's that starting your periods, which is where we get this concept of, okay, I have hormones in my body, and this is part of moving from a girl into a woman. But the thing is, we have a lot of hormones in our bodies. Actually, hormones mean messengers. So that's what makes our bodies work. So we have the hypothalamus, which is a gland in the brain that is to do with our nervous system. So it receives the messages from the outside world. So it's our touch, taste, smell, hearing, there's another seeing. So it's all our senses get received by the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus has this lovely close relationship with the pituitary gland in the brain as well. And the pituitary gland is like the conductor of the orchestra, and the pituitary gland sends messages out to the other glands in the body to make the body do things. So this could be, for example, we have a gland again in our brains called the pineal, which releases serotonin, which makes us feel all lovely and relaxed, and melatonin, which helps us sleep. So melatonin is a hormone that helps us sleep. So this is where we're starting to get this understanding that, oh, I've got all these different hormones. It's not just about having a period. So therefore, boys also have hormones. We have our thyroid in our neck that is to do with like weight and temperature. And then we also have our adrenals, which we talk about a lot. So the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys, and their job is, well, partly is to do with fight or flight or freeze. So it's our panic mechanism, our way of dealing with stress. It's the, okay, this is scary, I'm out of here, or okay, big beast, I'm going to fight it. And the adrenal glands release adrenaline, which is a neurotransmitter, and also cortisol, which is another hormone. It's a stress hormone, and we all have it. Then we have our pancreas, which releases hormones such as insulin, which breaks down our sugars. But did we know that the pancreas is also massively digestive? 95% of its function is digestive. So we also make digestive hormones. We have our ovaries and our testes, and this is what I was saying at the beginning, is that this is our periods, and also fertility and sex drive as well. So we have all these different hormones in the body, and what is so glorious about the way that we work is that we get a real, what we teach in our college is this real deep understanding of how the endocrine system works and how it all works together, because it's like a big family. And if one of the glands that are producing these hormones is struggling, it will throw the rest of the family off. And so this is where we're starting to see that we have girls and boys that are growing up, say they're going through stress. So I think COVID has been a great example of this, is that, hang on a minute, my world as I knew it is completely different. And actually there's a big scary disease out there, a big virus that's coming to get me. That in itself is going to create a stressful environment for children who are about to go through puberty. To say that girls and boys are eating a largely processed or carbohydrate-based diet, as they're coming into puberty, they're going to start seeing symptoms because of this connection with the pancreas being responsible for digesting carbohydrates and sugar, and also playing a role in the endocrine system. So if the pancreas is going, I can't do my job, then suddenly the adrenals are going to get, I can't do my job either. And then the testes and the ovaries are going to go, oh no, I'm not doing my job either. I think one of the important things to recognize about puberty is it's huge. Like, from a hormonal perspective, your body is going through such major changes. And one of the things that we can look at when we're looking at puberty, so one of the questions I know you had, Zoisa, is what is common, what is normal? And there is something called the Tanner stages, which looks at sexual maturity, and it gives a general guide of the physical development that a child should be going through. And it's worth saying that everybody is unique. So I think it can be quite stressful for children who are starting to go through puberty, who are late developers or early developers. That can be quite a stressful experience in itself. But it's worth looking at these Tanner stages, because the Tanner stages are meant to kick off around a girl's 8th birthday and a boy's 9th or 10th birthday. But what we are seeing, well, this is what is meant to be normal, but what is now becoming so much more common is because our diets, because of our environment, because of the plastics, because of the toxins, because of the medications like the pills that our mothers have been on, because of what we're dealing with, we are starting to see puberty starting much earlier. And the Tanner stages, so that first stage is where that first message comes from the hypothalamus and communicates with the pituitary to communicate with the testes and the ovaries to go, it's like knocking on the door. It's going, we're going to start something big, get yourself ready. But what we are seeing, what is common, is that a number of girls and boys are starting puberty so much earlier. And this is to do with things in our environment that act as xenoestrogens. So this is it can be a chemical in our environment, for example, that mimics estrogen. So if we have a girl or a boy who is exposed to xenoestrogens, so this could be toiletries, this could be cleaning products, this could be plastics, this could be chemicals in our furniture, in our clothes. I mean, it's everywhere. These xenoestrogens are anywhere, and they're in our food as well. And so they come into our bodies and they mimic estrogen. And so then this confusion happens in the endocrine, and the body's going, oh, there's all this estrogen. Maybe I should be gearing up for puberty so much earlier. And so some of the symptoms that we're seeing is periods are much earlier. And for boys have estrogen too. Estrogen plays a role in girls and boys. Estrogen for boys plays a role in sexual health and in sperm health. But here's the big important thing, is that estrogen needs to be in balance, and it needs to be produced by our bodies. These artificial estrogens that are in our environment, they are just confusing the matter. So the symptoms that we're seeing with boys are, if they've got too much estrogen, they start to look more feminine. They start, like the boobs. The male boobs is quite a common symptom of an estrogen imbalance in a boy, and it can also be with a girl. So this is, estrogen is a growth hormone, and it makes things puffy, it makes things soft, it makes things larger. And so when we've got girls and boys that are quite big and their muscle tone is soft, and they have got like weight around the middle or weight around the boobs or weight around the bum, then one of the things I'm looking at is what is going on with estrogen. Are there these artificial estrogens in the diet or in the environment? Or, and this comes back to the core of our work, which is the triangle of health, triangle of hormonal health, is that this estrogen, it has this interplay with the stress hormones cortisol. So are these children in stressful situations? Are they on their phones all the time, which is a stressor? Are they having to deal with COVID? Are they having to deal with school? Are they having to deal with exams? Are they unsure of what's happening with their exams? So the cortisol is a really important hormone to be looking at with this interplay with estrogen. And the other one is the blood sugars, which is our insulin. And so when we are eating, like I said earlier, a high carbohydrate diet with lots of sugar or lots of processed foods, which have a lot of these xenoestrogens in, when there's high insulin, there's high estrogen. So understanding this picture of what is going on in that child's body as they come up to puberty, the health of a child is so key in terms of how happy and how healthy their teenage years are going to be. And if we've got a girl or a boy who is starting to show those first puberty signs, but is getting symptoms like piling on the weight, or is losing energy, or is tired all the time, then we can start to go, okay, right, let's look at this triangle. What's going on with the diet? What's going on with the stress? What's going on with the environment? And we can start to clean it up, and we can start to bring it into balance. And this is what excites me when I get a teenager who comes into my clinic, is I go, you're so young. If we get this right now, you are going to go through your adult life without all of the symptoms that my adult clients have had to deal with. You're going to have healthy periods. You're going to have a healthy sex drive. You're going to have plenty of energy. You're going to have digestive systems that work. And then I mean, not teenagers are thinking about this, but it's the menopause. You know, when we go through our menopause, if we've had, it's the same thing. Whenever a woman or a man is going through a big hormonal change and the body isn't in a place of health, then this is where we start to get all the symptoms. That was a lot of talking, wasn't it?
No, that was great. And actually, one of the things that it reminded me of was just thinking about the stress. So I know that for me, I think the stress of school, or sometimes it's stress, people think, oh, nervous, but I think it's more kind of like level of anxiousness. Or my school report was always, Zoisa's good at coping, but I didn't express necessarily that I was feeling nervous or unsure. And again, coming back to that fight or flight, it's like either you're feeling stimulated and, you know, yes, let's going, or you have that, you know, I'm calm, I'm clear, I'm focused. And so actually moving, you know, just moving to a different school, moving to a different country, it's like I had all of those things to deal with at primary school. And being the biracial kid, is a lot of our senses. So you've got all the sound, see, what I see and hear, and then there's all that internal sensory information. And I think what hadn't occurred to me is that actually the stresses or extra strain on my whole system was, you know, you feel those different things going along, and you get to that point also as a teen when you're like, there's stuff happening in my body, I don't really get it, I don't know, it's like these random thoughts are coming in, you're trying to discover who you are when all sorts of things are changing, and that in itself can be a stressor and stressful. And then if you put on top of that, I know the opportunities for extracurricular activities and things weren't as much when I was at school compared to nowadays. The amount of activities and just access and opportunity is massive for adolescents now. And they can be doing like 5 days a week, and they're in their sports and they're in the after schools clubs. And I think if you're a very sporty or active and out there young person, and then it's like the hormones kind of kick in, well, you're already creating, as you said, with the nutrition, extra stresses, or there's stresses and strains that happen in everyday life. And our system is supposed to be able to cope with a certain amount. But again, it's like, well, unless you have that downtime and the body has that calm and the quiet, and the parasympathetic system has an opportunity to kind of gear up, it's like you've got the child who's like, yes, let's go, you know, everywhere's trashed, and you know, you can tell they've been around. That was me as a kid. And then you have your one that doesn't really say anything, but is quite methodical and organizes. So it's like the trashy child comes out in the sympathetic nervous system. It's like, yeah, let's just get into everything and make a mess everywhere. And then when that child is asleep, the kind of parasympathetic then goes, I'll just reorganize everything so it's nice and calm. But the kids and adolescents nowadays, it's like go, 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 do, consume. There's so much information overload. And I'm not sure, my question would be, it's like how much of those extra stresses have that impact in. It doesn't necessarily seem like there's a lot going on for them, because they're just doing their activities and leading a really active lifestyle. But then they get to that puberty stage, and I know what I've discovered for myself going through the course is that particularly when we got to the immune system, it's like if I'm eating incorrectly and that's stressing my system, then actually my pineal pituitary, then my brain's ability to kind of like know what it's supposed to do or how it's supposed to be directing everything, it's just like goes offline, and then I can't think. And then all the things that would seem like a normal behavior or a pattern is like straight out the window. And it's like, I'm learning this as an adult, but it's like, how cool would it be to be able to help adolescents and parents of adolescents understand? It's like, how does that play of the different stresses and sugars interplay with that endocrine, you know, the thoughts? It's like, I've received information and now I have to bring it down to my conductor, who is going to orchestrate which hormone, which organ does what job. Because as a teen, everything feels lanky and all over the place. Or I know boys, particularly with computer games, just because in my experience with kind of friends, and listening to some of my clients, it's like all that anger and the testosterone, and it's like, well, what else is it that testosterone is good for? And actually, as females, we also have the testosterone, and that whole balance of interplay of, well, it's not going to be out of balance because your system's stressed, and what is the makeup of the body supposed to be doing to help keep in balance? Because it is a question of, you know, there's times when it's supposed to be higher and lower, but if it's all on the treadmill, go, 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 then that also has an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's so much that I want to say to that. It's, I think something that's really missing from this day and age, which I really had through my childhood, was boredom. We were so bored as kids. There was nothing to do, and so we had to use our own creativity. And I really liked what you just said about this understanding of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have these two sides that communicate with each other and support each other. And the sympathetic nervous system is our first thing in the morning. It's your get up and go. It's your adrenaline. It's your clarity of thought. It's your energy. It's your, you know, and it can be on your PlayStation or your exercise or whatever it is. It's really active. But we need to, the way human beings are designed is that we have activity and then we have rest. And the thing that is really missing from a lot of teenagers and children's lives are this, okay, right, we've got this activity, now you need downtime. And I think the downtime where children are allowed to just be bored, where they haven't got any stimulation, because we think of TV and screens as something that we can chill out in front of, but they are stimulating the sympathetic part of the nervous system. And parasympathetic nervous system is to do with its digestion. So when someone is coming into my clinic and they've got digestive systems all over the place, one of the first places I look at is, where is your stress levels at? Is there this opportunity for you to rest, for your parasympathetic nervous system to come online to allow you to digest your food? And it's also where our sex drive comes on board. So people who've got very low sex drives or don't feel like they want to have sex, it's where's your rest? You've got to allow your body to calm itself down. So I think that is a really important picture to look at with teenagers. And yes, we look at these, so all these different hormones that we have. Estrogen and testosterone are stimulators in the body. They are designed to get us up and get us going. And so testosterone plays a really important role for women and for men in terms of energy and sex drive. So again, if I have a man or a woman or a teen who's coming in with very low energy, or is like sex drive is on the floor, I'm thinking, what is going on with testosterone? And there is this real connection, and we've talked about the interplay between insulin and estrogen. There is also one to do with testosterone. So when there is high insulin, when we're eating largely a carbohydrate or sugary diet, then we can also see that testosterone can get high. So we see this in things like polycystic ovary syndrome, which is where there is high levels of testosterone, but it's often to do because there is high insulin. And so to get underneath why the body is producing so much testosterone, we've got to be looking at the sugar. And our children and our teens are just, they're consuming a lot of sugar. There's just so much. We're all sugar addicts. And I think that this is important to look at, is that we've kind of ruined our food chain. Our soils were rich in nutrients such as magnesium and zinc, which are two important minerals to balance our blood sugars and also to balance our hormones. And so we used to get it in our food, and now we don't. And so when we are growing up as children and then we go through this massive puberty stage, if we are deficient in these key nutrients, B vitamins, iron, zinc, selenium, magnesium, if we're missing these because we've not had them in our diet, because we've been eating processed foods or we've been eating largely carbohydrate foods, and there's not been this balance of proteins, which is where we get a lot of our nutrition from, then we are going to find puberty way harder. So an example of this is acne. One of the first things I'm thinking of with acne is what's going on with zinc. Or another classic one in teens, this is absolutely something I went through, is the frequent immune system crash. So I would get tonsillitis after tonsillitis after tonsillitis. And so I was going to the doctors and taking the antibiotics and taking the antibiotics. And one of the things that I have learned as an adult, I went to see a gastroenterologist who said that frequent antibiotic usage throughout your teenage years, because your teens are such formative years, this is where your body is gearing up to become an adult, because you had that experience, you are going to have a compromised microbiome probably for the rest of your life, is what the doctor had said to me. And so what we can do as parents is, if our children they're covered in acne and they're on antibiotics for the acne, or they're getting this tonsillitis, or they can't seem to get well, it's the question I'm always excited about is why is our immune system crashing? What does the body need? Is there something that we can put in? So I'm looking at food intolerances. Is there a lot of sugar going in? Are they intolerant to dairy? Are they intolerant to wheat? Is their diets mainly those sugar, wheat, dairy? That's what we eat in the Western world. So do we need to really look at these and start cutting them out and replacing them with nutritious protein, nutritious fats, because our hormones are made out of fats, and healthy carbohydrates from fruit and vegetables? And do we need to look at supplementing with things like zinc or magnesium, or to really help the immune system? The immune system is such a victim to the hormone system. If the hormone system is going, sugar, then you're going to be getting ill on a frequent basis.
Fantastic, lovely. And one of the things that I find really interesting, just kind of like listening to that, particularly the kind of like what are they eating, is I know for me the ideal is, let's eat some proteins and fats and carbohydrates at every meal. And then as a teenager and adolescent, it's like you're going through that growth spurt. It's like you can, I think with my niece, it's like my mum's got on the wall, she's like, this is where she was at this age. And so she's kind of got a year older, or like through the different months, it's like you can see how much she's grown. And I think I hope that's still a really common practice. But along with that, the body needs to be able to create, build and grow bones, muscles. And then there's that insatiable, so my nickname is kind of like hollow legs, because I'll not necessarily want to eat a lot, and then I'll just go through times when I'm like, just meat, just put loads of meat in front of me. It's like I need the protein. And I know that as adolescents, I'm not sure how much it goes with the females, but I know with males it's just like, he emptied me out of the fridge again. And it's like, just as much as I buy to last us for a week, it's like they're kind of going through it in a day. And so that then comes into play. There are those different hormones connected to, yes, I'm hungry, here is the signaling, you're full now. And it's how do the fact that we're going through these hormonal changes and what you're actually fueling yourself with, to then have the body go, so that those signals of I'm satiated, no, I'm hungry, is we're getting those signals are learning to be correct, rather than, I'm eating. I know that if I don't, for me personally, if I haven't eaten enough protein, I could like eat loads, and then I'm like, I'm still hungry, I still need to put more in my belly.
Totally. I mean, the body is really, really clever. So protein is really important for growth. So this is why we've got to be looking at good quality protein for our children and for our teenagers, because they are growing bodies. So they need that protein to be able to heal and repair and to grow. And the body is really smart. So if you are missing nutrition, if you are eating loads of empty carbohydrates, and you take them in and the body goes, that's not what I wanted. I need some nutrients, I need some protein, I need some minerals, I need some vitamins. So it's going to keep sending those messages. And from a hormonal perspective, So we've got two key hormones. Actually, we've got loads, but three ones that I want to talk about. Leptin, ghrelin, and cholecystokinin. So these hormones, like ghrelin is when you're hungry and your belly's going there, that's ghrelin. That's your gremlins in your body, in your tummy, which I like to refer them to as. And leptin and cholecystokinin are hormones that say, okay, I've had enough. I'm not hungry anymore. And these blood sugar hormones, they respond, they're very, very sensitive to carbohydrates. So if you're putting, again, I'm going to bang on about the carbohydrates, the balancing of our macronutrients is so important. When we got lots of carbohydrates going in, these hormones are going up and down and up and down. And so you're going to be, you get the two extremes. You get people who are just starving all the time and going, no matter how much I eat, I can't fill up. That I'd be going, okay, right, we need to put some nutrition in and we need to balance those blood sugars. And then you get the opposite problem, which is that I'm not hungry at all. I could go, hours and hours without eating. Those hormones can go out of whack and they can also switch themselves off. So having this balance in the body, having this hormonal balance, this understanding of the whole endocrine system, as well as this understanding of how the food we eat absolutely dictates how our hormones behave. When I learned this, it was this eureka aha moment of, oh, okay, so my body's talking to me, and now I have the understanding to be able to listen, and now I have the tools to be able to do something about it. And this is what we teach in our functional kinesiology practitioner training. This is what we teach in our functional wellness practitioner training. This is, I know what you're going through, Zoisa, on our course. And this is what we are so passionate about sharing, is that if we can, like I said, I get so excited when I see a kid or a teenager and their mum's coming into the clinic or their dad's coming in and saying, like, they're showing these symptoms. We've gone through the medical profession. They don't know. We want to help. What can we do? And then I can have these conversations with the parents and also with the children. I think there's a really interesting piece here about, we are teaching teenagers how to become adults. So there is this conversation that needs to happen about what it is to be an adult, and taking self-responsibility and understanding that when we just want to eat a bag of M&Ms, that this is actually a hormone response, and we've got the choice to be able to eat some good quality protein and fats and a balance of carbohydrates, which will stop that craving, or we can give into that craving. And that takes self-responsibility, that takes self-awareness. And so this looking at how they're feeling about becoming an adult and how they can start to manage their own health, I think it's brilliant. I would love to help teenagers to really take that ownership.
And then one of the things that we've mentioned is that triangle of health, so the blood sugars, the stress, and also the sex hormones, and particularly mood. So, the mood, and I think the other thing, mood stroke emotions, and then the other thing that I would also put into the pot is just, as well as focus, is that expression, being able to articulate and understand about how what you eat and what's happening can have an impact on that mood, on your moods, and that all moods and emotions, they're all welcome. They all have a different piece of the puzzle to play. In the Chinese 5 elements, which we also look at the course, it's like, depending on where the imbalances are in the system, depends on kind of which ones are showing. And ideally, we have a cycle between all of them. So I think another piece for me is again, for young people to be able to welcome and just accept all of those, these are the different moods. So it might be that you get some that are just, whatever whatever happens, happens, and it's like nothing really throws me, and then we'll just kind of go with the flow. And then you get some young people who are, they're on an even keel, they can kind of cope with anything, and then all of a sudden those hormones are kind of kicking in, and you've got the testosterone, and I've got all that extra stimulating energy, and it's like, so you can feel like as an adult, I'll say, like wired. It's like, yeah, let's go. But then it's like, am I just angry? I don't know what to do with all of this energy. So I think that's another important piece of the puzzle. And it's like, how does that whole mood aspect, and as a parent being able to kind of cope with, okay, this is the shift I can see happening. So where does that relate in the triangle, and what is it that we can do to support that?
I love it. I think it's worth noting that estrogen, progesterone has a monthly cycle. So we know that, so we have our period, and then estrogen starts to rise. It peaks at ovulation, then progesterone comes on, and testosterone comes on at ovulation as well, which is, our sexy time, and that's why our partners look lovely at ovulation. And then estrogen drops a little bit, and progesterone takes over, and then we have our period, and we clear it all out. Testosterone has, particularly for men, has more of a 24-hour cycle, so it's higher in the mornings. Always worth noting, if you have a teenage boy, of how their moods can be. So each of those three hormones actually, like I see hormone reactions with most of the hormones. I think if your insulin is high and your blood sugars are off, that makes you moody. When your cortisol is high and you're stressed, that makes you moody. Estrogen, when your estrogen is high, when your progesterone is high, when your testosterone is high, it's just everything just gets moody. And I like to work with it. So I think the teenage time of life, it's naturally to do with, it's an important part of growing up is to rebel. And my experience of working with hundreds of people in my clinic is that if that rebellion didn't come through in the teens, you'll see it. You'll see it in the 20s or the 30s or the 40s or the menopause or whatever it is. There will be this time in our lives where we need to really find ourselves rebelling against something. And this can be very difficult for parents, because it's a very safe exploration of rebellion is when we rebel against our parents. And so it's that, how do we create a space for our teens to be able to rebel in a healthy expression of it, and understanding that the anger, testosterone it's that energy, and it is linked in with anger, and if we suppress it, it just goes somewhere else, or it just sits there and stews. So how do we allow anger to come through us, and how do we encourage it to come through in our teenagers so that they're clearer, so that they're able to become more emotionally intelligent, that they have the tools to be able to deal with emotions? So one of the things that I really truly believe is that when someone has an unhealthy expression of anger, have either learned to suppress it or express it in quite an unhealthy way, then anxiety tends to kick off, because anxiety is fear that has no edges. And when anxiety can feel that anger is able to stand up for ourselves, is able to stand in front of anxiety and go, it's okay, I got this. I'm just going to have my word about this because I can keep us safe. When that's missing, and then we're seeing anxiety off the charts with our teens at the moment. And so, like, seeing our teenagers getting angry, going, great. Okay, what I want you to do is to go into your room and get this out, have a big scream, use swear words if you want to, maybe invest in a like a little rounders bat where you can really just get it out. And it's teaching our teens, you don't shout at me, your parents. I know you need to rebel against something, but it's not okay to express your anger at me. Express your anger, find a root for your anger. And this is where sport can be really powerful. This is where testosterone and its competitiveness, okay, how do I bring my testosterone and my competitiveness onto the sports field without, you know, battering the other players? But this is where we use the physical activity of moving our bodies and getting this through. This is where we can really help our teenagers to grow into adults who understand that all our emotions are welcome and there is an expression for each of them.
Fantastic, lovely. And so I know that you've mentioned already about the difference. So for females, it comes whether it's period difficulties or what's happening with the skin. So what are the other types of conditions or symptoms that you get young adolescents, kind of males coming in with, which again, I would say they've kind of gone through what are the different kind of medical models of people that they've gone to, and then they've kind of had a sit down and conversation with you, and it's gone, and they've had that aha moment, or what do you see? What's your experience?
So one of the really interesting ones, symptoms that can happen through teens, which can be normal and common, but also is a sign of health, is body odor. So when we hit our teenage years, we are designed to start smelling as our hormones. I mean, you know, when we are pregnant, women can have it. When women are due on their periods, they go, what is that smell coming out of me? If you don't use underarm deodorants, for example, and you get really attuned to your hormones do have a smell. And part of that for teenagers is that they're producing a smell to repel. It's part of nature. It's repelling their parents. You know, they're putting out a scent, which their parents go, good grief, your bedroom. It's part of nature, but the healthier we are, the more that we are balancing our blood sugars, that we're dealing with our stress, that we are having healthy bowel movements, the more that fragrance, that body odor that we're putting out is going to be more natural. If there is a real body, it's quite pungent and it's very, very strong, that could be an imbalance in these hormones. So that can be a symptom. And what I think can be really challenging is that when we get to our teens and our parents go, good God, you stink, please use deodorant, and we start using the antiperspirants, and we then start stopping ourselves from sweating. Sweating is a natural bodily function that we need to do, and we need to encourage our teenagers who are probably mortified about sweating, but we got to do, it's part of being healthy, we've got to sweat. So finding a natural deodorant that doesn't have an antiperspirant is a really nice thing that we can recommend. So yes, we've talked about acne. I'd be looking at blood sugars. I'd be looking at diet. I'd be looking at food intolerances. I'd be looking at zinc. Those are the big ones for acne or bad skin or oily skin. Or weight gain is absolutely, I'll be looking at the triangle. I'll be looking at that carbohydrate balance. I'll be looking at the toxins in the environment. I'll be looking at, does our body have the vitamins and minerals to be able to produce that balance of hormones?
But things like if they start to become sensitive or seem to have allergies around either foods that they could tolerate, or alternatively different environments that are starting to, whether it's kind of pollen, grass, or household dust, and then I have the experience of somebody whose child is really active and sporty, and then it's like the things that their body would normally be able to kind of hold down or contain, it's like that going back to either having a break, or you know, how they recover from injury, or the body just going, I'm just going to let it all go. Excretory systems, it's like I can't control how they are. It's like, so the body's ability to kind of keep it in when you need to keep it in and just let it go, it's just like, I'm just letting it go. It's like somebody's pulled the plug, I have no control.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
immune system.
what's your understanding and how to help both adolescents and parents help the kids navigate that?
Yeah, immune system absolutely is a victim to this triangle. So I'd be looking at balancing the blood sugars, dealing with the stress, looking at the hormone picture. It's also, does the body have the right tools? Again, I'm coming back to zinc. Zinc is a big one for immune system and for adolescents. It's one of my favorite supplements for teenagers. I would also be looking at, do they have the antioxidants? Do they have their vitamins A, the fat soluble ones, A, D, and E, and K? Have they got the antioxidants, which is your A's and C's? So this is making sure that they've got a really varied diet. It's coming off the junk food and making sure that they're hydrated. I mean, dehydration can be such a trigger for things like hay fever or immune system response, and cutting those food intolerances out. I'd be looking at the wheat and the gluten and the dairy. I mean, we're all individuals, so it's about finding the ones that are triggering that individual. But because the hormone system, the endocrine system, is going through such a change, it really reveals where the weaknesses are in the body. And I think one of the difficulties that we have is that we often reach for medication to take the pain away, and it is absolutely, I mean, we work hand in hand with doctors, and we recommend going, we cannot diagnose as health practitioners, so it's great to get that diagnosis and then to start asking the questions. Why is it that I have a cold every single month? And I'm starting to go through puberty. Okay, I'm eating loads of dairy, and I haven't got this variety of fruit and vegetables and a good quality protein, and I'm quite stressed. And you know, it's about looking at this complete picture, which is a symptom's trying to tell you something. So let's go and investigate, and let's go find out what's going on, and then empower ourselves to do something about it.
Lovely. No, that's fantastic. I know that if I'd had more, well, it's always good with hindsight and recollection as an adult to go, oh, if only. And again, it's like if you've been the child that's like always conformed, then often food can be the thing that could be your one way to rebel. It's like, I'm not going to eat my greens and my this and my that and the other that I need to. So I do think definitely having an understanding and an education, and I know that's one of the things that's important and part of our role as practitioners is to educate. It's like, if you're going to make the choice, but make it an informed choice, and then see the results, and then do this. And if you want it, you can either help and support your body, or you can, you know, if you don't do it now, then you'll feel the effects definitely later on.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about working with the teenager is find their motivation, because I know that the teenagers I've worked with, when I say, well, you know, if we sort this out now, you're going to have an amazing menopause, they go, I don't care. But if you've got a teenager who is experiencing acne, for example, and will do anything to understand and get underneath this acne, and they're putting on all of these, again, toxic chemicals all over this acne and making things worse, it's when we're able to have that conversation with the acne is coming from, it could be your imbalance in your blood sugars, it's the fact that you're eating loads of junk food, it's the fact that you're not going to bed on time, it's the fact that, and if you start to look after your health, then your skin will start to improve. And so it's finding their motivation. That's the conversation I would be having.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that comes to mind with that, as well as finding the conversation, is, you know, way back at the beginning when we started this talk, as you were saying, you know, these are the changes that ideally happen, and this is the time. But within that, it's like we are all individual, we are all unique. Everybody's hormone makeup is, whilst we all have them, and we're all made up of bugs and viruses, it's like everybody is unique. Everybody's system has a different kind of like tolerance radar kind of like built into them. So it's also understanding kind of like what yours is, and that major shift of the hormones. It's like, for me, it's almost like that turns the volume up on, it's like, what is your system? So it may be that actually your mate can go and kind of like just eat all the junk food, or maybe you're already, because your parents are very educated and they know what's what. So from the get-go, you've had a good, clean, healthy diet, but actually it is just the extra stresses of the hormones and what's happening. And then I'd even go to, like, particularly with the COVID and all the different changes, it's like, these are rules and now they're changed and now these are the rules. And it's like, but you know, it's the kids aren't giving the signals and they're the ones that are transporting it. And I'm like, oh my God, put more pressure. And just the impact of having to wear the mask, or just constantly, you know, I've got to clean my hands, clean. That also has an impact on our immune systems, because if you haven't read, so I also did a talk with Laura a while ago on, you know, the different types of immune systems, and it has to learn. And so how, you know, have you, for the clients that you've seen either in person when we can, or I know we're able to see people virtually, how has that experience of A, the isolation, or B, that clean had on young people?
Yeah, it's something called the hygiene hypothesis, and this is where there's been a number of different research projects that have looked at, when we live in a very clean, sterile environment, what happens to our immune systems. And there's this real connection between an increase in allergies and immune dysfunctions in adulthood when a child experiences a very clean environment. And so this is a really exciting work by a wonderful doctor called Zach Bush, who talks about the microbiome, and this is the health of our gut and this mirror that it has to the immune system. And one of the things that he says that I really agree with is that probiotics are a bit of a waste of time, and that if you really want to have a diverse microbiome, get in the mud, get in the grub, go and be in an environment, go to a forest that you don't live near and get in the mud and get it on your face and smell it and have it on your body, and all these different microbes that the immune system is going, okay, well, look at all of this, look at all this variety. I think that there's we can often have a fear of viruses and bacteria and this kill mentality, without the understanding that we are actually made out of bacteria and viruses and pathogens. We are more pathogen than we are human. And so this kill mentality is leading us into a place of ill health. And so our perspective of how we understand and what we do in our training is, how do we manage the internal environment, and that is with our lifestyle choices and our diet, so that we are able to come into the external environment and come into balance with it. And so that it's not just this, we need to obliterate all of pathogens because they are out to attack us. That is not the case. We are pathogens. So if you do have a team that is constantly getting ill, look at the internal environment. It's the internal mirrors the external. So it's an opportunity to really get sort of the health and the lifestyle picture in order. I'm aware of time. I mean, this is such a fascinating talk, and I think one of the things that we could maybe look at for the future is doing, because this talk is for parents, right? This is who we tend to see in our clinics, but there might be an opportunity to actually do a talk for teenagers who never listen to their parents anyway. It's absolutely their job in life not to listen to their parents, but maybe we could do a talk for them which is speaking to this is what's happening in your body, and this is why, and this is what you can do about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's what I love it is that environment. So as a parent, as a practitioner, it's all about helping people understand and recognize what is the environment I need around me, so that I can grow and thrive and flourish. And it's then also being able to go, okay, so what is the environment I need within me for everything else to happen, to be able to grow and to survive and thrive. And if those environment, if it's not the ideal, then how do I work with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is absolutely where our work as practitioners, and also our work as the college, is to empower people to understand, okay, now what am I going to do with this?
Yeah. And then it's like, if there's make up your own solution based on the things that you know. It's like we are all creative, so it's like get that opportunity, and how great to be able to hand that down, so that all the transitions, because the adolescent is just one one of the many kind of like key change points. You've got kind of 7, and then you've got 14, and then 21. It's like, well, if I already have my game plan and my tools at the ready, then how cool is that? How fantastic to be able to help ourselves,
Yeah, totally.
and the generations to come.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Zoisa. Fascinating talk. I could talk about this all day.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it as well.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.